Hey everybody, how's it going? Daniel Kaplan here. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a quick run through of this spreadsheet that I made. And the reason why I made this spreadsheet was one of my buddies actually came to me and said, Daniel, I want to get started in investing in real estate. Like if you could go back to yourself before you bought your first ever deal, what would you teach him? What would you go over? What were the lessons that you learned? What are the structures that you would have kind of told him to run through? So that's kind of the basis of this spreadsheet and kind of what I'm going to be running you guys through right now. So there are a couple of steps to buying real estate, and people like to make this seem too complicated, in my opinion, when it really comes down to a couple simple facets. The first one is your capital stack, right? What is your debt and what does your equity look like? And this is a function of how much cash do you have? What are your lender relationships? Are you raising a fund? Are you going to be using a line of credit like the individual here is using? Now, the next one is once you figure out your capital stack, you then find your market. Right in the beginning, I recommend being market agnostic. And what that means is it doesn't matter what market you're in, right? Just go and find a banger deal. And then from there on out, then you can double down on that market. And the next one is finding the deal. So the steps are a little bit out of order, but actually looking at the deal and trying to find a deal, right? Give me a second. I'm going to add to this list. So go and start searching for deals, right? Go on Zillow, go and talk to brokers, go and do outbound calling or outbound texting or some form of off-market lead gen to go and source these deals. And then when you find the deal, the next thing you need to learn is how to underwrite. And in my opinion, this is one of the easiest things to do, but where I see a lot of beginner mistakes made. So be very meticulous with your underwriting. It is an easy step once you learn how to do it the right way. And then the last thing you need to worry about is then build a team around it. Once you source a deal and you've validated the numbers, then go and build a team. Now, what people make the mistake of is they fixate on the market and they fixate on their team. And the challenge is you might take 2 weeks to go and research markets, look at these certain metrics, figure out what you like and what you don't like. And then you spend all this time networking, building a team, figuring out all this nonsense just for you to realize you are unable to source deals in this market or deals are not penciling in this market. So I'm a big believer in finding the deal first and then building everything else around it. Now, when I was diving into it with him, the first thing we talked about was a capital stack. And you have two things to think about. You've got your debt, and then you have your equity. That is all you have in its simplest form. Now, for debt, you have two things to think about. The first one is your short-term debt versus your long-term debt. The short-term debt is like your hard money lender, your PML. This is more if you're doing a value add kind of deal. Maybe you need capital for 6 to 12 months. The next one is your long-term debt. This is when you are stabilizing your deal and you are wanting to get 30-year terms. So for short-term debt, right, this is what it typically kind of looks like when you're looking for a hard money lender is you want to go and look and you'll see, okay, what is the cost basis of your project? And then typically what you're kind of looking for is a 90% loan to cost. Maybe they'll charge you 2 points and probably you'll want your interest rate to be at 10 to 12%. That is what you need to go and solve for your short-term debt. Whether this is a hard money lender, which I do not recommend, I would rather go and get a PML, or if you can, try and use your own capital. For this individual stake, he has a line of credit, which makes this a lot easier for him. So as you see, he's just going with a line of credit, so his short-term debt is super easy. But I recommend going with the PML. The unfortunate reality of hard money lenders is you've got 100 billion different unknown costs that you are not going to be prepared for. Now, the next one is your stabilized debt, right? Your long-term debt. Typically, what kind of terms I'm looking for, 75 to 80% LTV, 6 to 7.5% rates, maybe zero point 0.5 to 1 points. And that kind of checks off the capital stack. Now, for your market, I think people overthink this too much. Literally, I would say the only thing you need at the start is just firstly, be in a red state, and then two, like do quick analysis, like go on Zillow, look at deals, and just do a quick backup napkin on maybe 10 deals and see, is it possible to make deals cash flow given the strategy I'm doing? So for this individual's sake, he's only looking at Section 8. So we have a very stringent buying criteria, and consequently, when we are looking for deals, we need to keep that in the back of our head. So make sure the market is conducive for our exit strategy. Now, the next part about it was actually sourcing the deal. And kind of what me and him were doing is we went on Zillow, we were looking at deals, and then we went and began underwriting. And this was the underwriting framework that I went and taught him, right? All we are doing is BRRRRs, right? In my opinion, I do not like to buy turnkey deals. I think I wrote down buying criteria here and my philosophies. So I'll break down a couple things before. So what metrics do we care about in underwriting? What is our ARV? What is our purchase price? What is our rehab? What is our stabilized rent? This is really the only metrics that we need to really fixate on. And what I tell them is we want to look at the biggest metric that I care about is what is our cost basis versus our ARV. So what is our cost basis? Right, we have repairs, price, interest accrued for our short-term debt, closing costs, points, taxes, insurance, utilities, aka holding costs. And we usually want our total cost basis to be about 80 to 85% of the ARV. Now, the Daniel philosophies from the countless mistakes that I've made: never buy turnkey. When we buy a deal, we are now repairing every single item. Look at the crime map. Just because it is Section 8 does not mean you can buy in the hood. Get a killer property manager, and when you are analyzing a deal and you think it makes sense, get second, third, and fourth opinions, right? When you get a deal, talk to agents, talk to property managers, talk to GCs. They know the market better than you. And when I'm looking at deals, again, only 3-bed plus, not in the hood, red states, cost basis below 80% ARV, not turnkey, maybe I do 2 to 4 units. And if you're curious, this is what the quick back of napkin underwriting looks like. If you want the spreadsheet, comment UW for underwriting, and I'll share this with you. So I hope this is helpful. Again, super easy, right? People overcomplicate this. It is not that challenging.